Arm pump only.
My heart rate.
You guys have been talking way too much about delicious breakfast this morning.
Yeah, I want a cinnamon roll.
A cinnamon roll? That sounds pretty good. Kyle was talking about how's a mango in Baja, and I was like, oh, that sounds so good. Anyway, let's get to business, because we're not here to talk about restaurants. We're here to talk about how to ride bikes. And one of the topics that's come up a lot is people have kind of mentioned like, hey, you guys didn't really do anything about how to actually active pump. Like we talked a little bit about passive pumping, but we didn't really get into active pumping, so I figured we'd cover that a bit today.
Yeah.
Cool. So we're going to work a little bit on the pump track. We're also going to talk a little bit about pumping on natural terrain. And, you know, really when we think about pumping, a lot of the activity comes through our legs. Some of it's going to come through our arms, some of it's going to come through our legs, but our legs are about 4 times stronger than our arms. So we want to get the bulk of our propulsion from our legs. And one of the things about that is when I'm on like a pump track, which we're going to be starting on today, I can recruit my arms. The reason for that is it's pretty smooth, right? So there's nothing kind of in my way. I can recruit my arms a little bit. So I'm going to be pumping with my arms followed by my legs on a pump track, right? And the taller the item is, if I'm like on kind of like smooth, wavy, rolly bumps, the taller the item is, the more I'm going to get a little bit of an up pull up the face of it to kind of negate the face of it, right? This is basically the opposite of jumping. So when we have a jump, we're coming up and we're pressing into the front slope of the jump. Here we're kind of pulling up the front slope, negating it, and then pressing down the back. You ever thought about it that way?
I always thought that you were pushing into the face like you were on a jump.
Okay.
But that's wrong.
No, so like at the base of it, like you can, like if you're finishing one pump and you're pressing into the base, now you're going to be lightening up. And that's where like, it's almost like a J-hop, right? Like where you're pulling up and over and then pressing down, because we don't want to run into the uphills. We want to press down the downhill. So we're trying to negate the uphill and press down the downhill, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
You know, when I first started doing any pump track stuff, this is long before I knew anything about Fluidride, I used to practice going around the pump track just with my feet and just with my hands and then putting it together.
Oh, that's cool.
Is that something you would recommend, or is that kind of whack?
I've never tried going around a pump track with just my hands. Like, that sounds hard. I can barely do a handstand. I'm looking forward to seeing that. You're just going to walk around on your hands on the pump track.
That's not what I mean.
So I've never actually tried that. I'm interested to see if that actually works.
This is all about when do we use our hands while pumping.
So yeah, I mean, you know, this is one of the times where we do recruit some upper body strength, and it's rare that we're going to be doing that on the bike. As a matter of fact, we're not always going to be doing that when we're pumping, because if we're on really like technical terrain, we're going to just be using the legs, because if there's, you know, roots and rocks and things like that, and I'm using my arms, that's bringing my center of mass up really high into my chest and shoulders. And when I'm on the trail, especially if it's kind of rough and technical, I'm just going to use the legs to press. Now, that kind of also brings up another topic, which is like, when would we use this on a trail, like in technical terrain? We're going to use this when we're going slowly and it's too rough to pedal, like we think we might catch a pedal on the ground or something. If we're already going really quickly, we're going to use the passive pumping, just letting the bike kind of fly through the terrain. But if we're going slowly, and we'd love to pedal, but we kind of can't because of the terrain, we're going to use this to be our force to generate some speed.
Yeah.
So again, arms and legs when it's smoother. Really using the arms when like we have big tall rollers to get through. And then when we get into technical tracks, we're going to be mostly just using the legs. All right, pump track time.
All right.
So now, just having done a little bit of warming up, can you kind of feel that negating the front side now, that pulling up?
You're right, it does get really light as you're coming up.
Yeah, it's just going to help you kind of keep from slowing down up the upslope, and it should just give you more outright speed on the pump track. All right, let's rip a few more laps.
Cool.
Okay.
My heart rate.
All right, so here we've got some slightly taller rollers. So we're going to be working these 4 rollers coming this direction. And this is where we really want to negate the front side of them. So we're going to be working the upper body a little bit, kind of like rowing the bike up a bit toward us and then pressing the bike down. Now, it's pretty rare that you hear me say that, right?
Yeah.
I'm always like, don't use the upper body, right? Keep the upper body out of it. But in this situation here, there's nothing to impede us. It's super smooth. And we just have these big shapes that we're coming through. And so we want to use as much of our potential like muscle structure as we can if we're trying to generate maximum speed. And even though our legs are a lot stronger than our upper body, if we can get an extra 20 or 25% out of our upper body, we're going to do that, right? So we're just going to really focus on negating the front side of the bump with that little bit of a row up and then pressing down through the back slope, right? Making this motion here with the arms.
Cool.
Pretty rare bird here. Okay,
Yeah.
so enjoy it. All right, so now that we've had some fun on the pump track and on some bigger rolly bumps and on some tech, I want to see this hands-only pumping thing. Because I'm not convinced this is possible. I've never tried it, but I'm going to call you out if you're using your legs. All right? So this is, why did you do this again? Was this?
I was just trying to isolate what it felt like to get the timing with my hands and what it felt like to actually push with my upper body.
All right, well, if this works really well, we're going to erase this portion. I'm going to use it in class and pretend like I made it up.
Okay.
Arm pump, take 1. All right, that's it. I'm stealing it. I love it.
Do you actually?
I'm stealing that for sure. Yeah, I mean, like at first you were like maybe using your legs a little. Of course, you're standing on your legs. You have to, right?
Yeah.
But that was mostly arms. That was pretty impressive.
So extreme.
Oh yeah. Arm pump. All right, so we're gonna bring that into the advanced trail concepts class. We're gonna be doing some arm pump next time.
Some arm pump.
And then we'll do some leg pump, and then we'll just do some full body pump.
The thing is, if you just try to isolate it as much as possible, it's really obvious when you're doing it wrong.
That's a really good point. I like that.
You can feel that you're fighting the roller.
Nice. Bringing the fight to the rollers. Bringing the information to the people.
I've never tried this before. How do you do the beach thing?
It's a pretty good look. It's a good look for sure. Nice work. I was particularly impressed with just the arm pump.
The arm pump.
That was my favorite part of today. But when we got onto more technical trails and like some of the stuff that you've done with Jason in the past and just some of the riding we've done in the past, we get more into just leg pump, right? So like it's a combination that we can bring in. If we have perfect conditions, we can bring in both. You know, in a lot of places, we're going to bring in just the legs. And then now we have our new technique for bringing in just arm pump.
Yeah, right. And it's nice to be conscious of this because it will become second nature, but now I know ways that I can improve my on-trail riding and also the pump track riding. Because I always thought they were the same, and it's nice to know why one would be applied in each situation. Yeah,
and none of the clips that we've looked at have been like crazy technical, but like if you watch this like in World Cup downhill or something like that, you're really going to see like, generally speaking, see a lot more use of just the legs if it's a technical section.
And I can also imagine when you're doing a big day, you're doing something like a World Cup race, that you're also thinking about how you're going to conserve your energy.
Absolutely, yeah. So you gotta pick and choose when you do this, and only do it when it really pays off.
Yeah, thank you. Learned a lot today.
All right.
Go team.
Go.